I still remember the sound before I remember the words. Paper tearing, slow, deliberate, loud enough to cut through the marble quiet of the bank lobby. The man behind the counter smiled while he did it. Not a big smile, not cruel in an obvious way, just satisfied, like someone who finally got to prove a point. "People like you don't walk in with checks like this," he said, holding the ripped pieces between two fingers, letting them fall onto the counter one by one. $50,000, shredded, in public. And everyone watched. I stood there with my hands resting flat on the counter, fingers relaxed, shoulders steady. On the outside, I looked calm. Inside, something hot and old rose up in my chest. Not rage exactly, more like that familiar burn you get when you realize someone has already decided who you are without bothering to ask. I didn't say a word, not yet. Because I've learned something over the years, the moment you react too fast is the moment you give your power away. He leaned back slightly, arms crossing, enjoying the silence. Security guards shifted their weight nearby. A woman in line pulled her child closer. A couple of people pretended to scroll on their phones, but I could feel their attention glued to me, waiting for a scene. Waiting for me to confirm whatever story they were already telling themselves. See, I didn't look like money. No designer suit, no flashy jewelry, no entourage. Just a simple blouse, slacks, a purse that didn't scream anything at all. The kind of outfit you wear when you're running a quick errand, not making a statement. And to him, that meant everything. "Is there anything else?" he asked, already turning away like I'd been dismissed from the room. I took a breath, slow, measured. "I'd like documentation explaining why you destroyed a legitimate financial instrument without verification," I said calmly. That got his attention. He looked back at me, eyebrows lifting slightly, the smile tightening. "We don't provide documentation for fraudulent items." Fraudulent. The word hung in the air, heavy, poisonous. I nodded as if I were considering that. "Interesting," I said, "because you haven't verified anything." A flicker of irritation crossed his face. He wasn't used to being questioned, not by someone who looked like me. Behind him, through the tall glass windows of the bank, I noticed movement outside. Workers across the street were pulling a tarp down from something massive. Bright colors peeked through. I didn't smile. I didn't react. Instead, I gathered the torn pieces of the check, carefully folded them, and slipped them into my purse. My hands were steady. That seemed to bother him more than if they'd been shaking. As I stepped away from the counter, I could feel it, the quiet judgment, the curiosity, the subtle satisfaction some people get when they think they've just watched someone be put back in their place. What they didn't know was that I'd spent most of my life learning exactly how rooms like this work. I took a seat in the waiting area instead of leaving. That confused him. He kept glancing over, clearly expecting me to storm out, humiliated and defeated. I wasn't defeated. I was observing. I noticed how quickly white customers were waved forward while others waited. I noticed the tone shifts, the size, the way questions became interrogations depending on who was asking. I noticed patterns. My phone buzzed softly in my purse. A text. "Mom, billboard just went up. Did you see it yet?" I didn't respond. Instead, I looked up through the glass again. And there it was, my son's face. 30 feet tall, confident, smiling, wearing his team colors. Beneath him a slogan about community trust and belonging. The irony almost made me laugh. Inside the bank, I was being treated like a problem. Outside, his image was being used to tell the world how inclusive this institution was. I pulled out my phone and typed a single message to my assistant. "Document everything. Discrimination incident, downtown branch, supervisor involved, loop legal. No drama, no emotion, just facts." The man at the counter, his name tag read. Evan straightened his posture, clearly proud of himself. In his mind, he'd done his job, protected the system, kept someone like me from getting away with something. That's the dangerous part about people like him. They don't think they're villains. About 30 minutes passed. I stayed seated, calm, visible. Eventually, a younger employee approached me, her smile tight and rehearsed. "Ma'am, is there something else we can help you with today?" I looked up at her kindly. "Yes," I said. "I'd like to review your branch's public compliance files." Her eyes widened just a little. She glanced toward Evan instinctively. He was on his feet instantly. "Those aren't available to customers." "They are," I replied evenly, "by law." He laughed sharp and dismissive. "You seem very confident for someone who just had a check rejected." I met his gaze. "Confidence comes from knowing what you're talking about. That was the moment his phone rang. He silenced it without looking. A mistake, because a few minutes later the front doors opened again, and this time people in tailored suits walked in with purpose. Not customers, not tourists. People who knew exactly where they were going. One of them spotted me immediately. Her face lit up. "There you are," she said warmly. "We weren't expecting you today." Evan froze. The group gathered around me, greeting me by name, asking about the campaign launch, the community initiatives, the rollout plans. He stood there confused, watching the ground shift beneath his feet. I rose slowly. "Evan," I said gently, "I don't believe I introduced myself earlier." Silence wrapped around the lobby like a held breath. "My name is Claire Monroe," I continued. "I serve on the board that oversees this bank's community development programs." His face drained of color. "And I'm also," I added, glancing toward the billboard outside, the mother of the athlete, whose face you've been using all week to tell people they belong here. No one moved. No one spoke. The power didn't come from my title. It came from the truth landing all at once, undeniable and witnessed. One of the executives stepped forward, voice calm but cold. "We'll need you in the conference room, immediately." Evan tried to speak. Nothing came out. As he was led away, I looked around the lobby at the customers, the staff, the people who'd watched it all unfold. "This wasn't about a check," I said quietly. "And it wasn't about me." No one interrupted. "It was about assumptions, about who gets questioned and who gets trusted, about how easy it is to confuse authority with arrogance." I picked up my purse. "I don't need special treatment," I continued. "I need fair treatment, for everyone." Then I walked out. The sun felt warm on my face as the glass doors slid shut behind me. Traffic hummed. Life moved on. But inside that building, something had cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. I didn't walk away feeling victorious. I walked away feeling clear. Clear about how power really works. Clear about how quiet confidence unsettles people who rely on status. Clear about how often dignity is mistaken for weakness. And clear about this: money doesn't change who you are. It reveals who other people have been all along. So let me ask you, have you ever been judged before you were heard? And when the truth finally came out, did it change anything or just expose it? Tell me what you think.